doing the stuffs and the things and the stuffs and the things in the live stream, having a great time in the live stream. Yeah, baby, talking about the theisms and the atheisms and the God and the not gods, and is there a God, is there not a God? How could we possibly know, really? What would a world without God look like? Do we know? Can we know? Is this world, is this a world without God? Who's to know? Who's to say? I definitely don't have the answers, but I like to talk about it because I'm weird like that. Oh, my happy fruits, hello. Eric. I forgot what your name was, and then I couldn't see it because I don't have my glasses on. Because I don't want to have my glasses on because I'm tired. It's been one of those days. It's one of those days where it's been a day, you just kind of want your glasses to not be on your face. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, but that's the day that I'm having. I just didn't want my glasses on my face. But yeah.
I feel like the only people who can relate are the people who aren't as blind.
Yeah, I do at least have the option of removing my glasses and still being able to see. I just can't see fine details. Like, chat's a little rough. But I'm gonna try to be stubborn and not have my glasses on because I don't want it. Yeah, I am fortunate in that regard that my vision's not like that terrible. If you see me do this, I've done it like 3 times since I hit live. I'm going to adjust my glasses that aren't on my face. So if you see me doing that, that's exactly what I'm doing. But yeah, is there a God? What would a world without God look like? And does it look like this? Is this all it looks like? Because is this a world without God? And if it's not a world, see, it's like either we know exactly what a world without God looks like, or we might never know, Just like this one, yeah. I mean, it's like either a world without God, either there is no God, and a world without God looks exactly like this, or there is a God, and who the heck knows what a world without God would look like. Or maybe they would all look the exact same, or they would both look all the exact same. Both look all. Yep, that's what I said. That's words that are coming out of my mouth. Sleepy day. Somewhat productive day, but sleepy day. But also, what would a world look like morals wise, ethics wise? Hello. Morals, ethics, education, care, love. What would all these things look like in a world without a God? And like I said, we can't really figure out, what a world with or without a God would look like. But we can at least look into, how someone who doesn't believe there's a God views the world, and how they can get morals and ethics and purpose and things like that. How are you doing? I'm tired today. It's been a day. I'm sure you can tell. I'm a little disheveled today. But I still want to do a live stream. I skipped the last live stream. Can't skip again. I don't like skipping. Yeah, what would a world look like? Because there's a lot of people who think that a world without God, or a world where people don't believe in God, would just be anarchy and chaos, and everyone's hurting each other and being selfish and out for number one. But we see large populations of atheists who don't do that, and we see people from other religions who don't do that. So the idea of, oh, they're either Christian or it's just like evil, terrible, murderous, whatever, it just kind of falls apart. And I remember being in that mindset when I was still a Christian. You know, I thought that like atheists were the evil, you know, devil worshippers or whatever. Um, you need to avoid them. They worship Satan, whatever. They're evil. They're mean, selfish people. And then, you know, I met some of them because I grew up going to Catholic schools, so I didn't meet a lot of them growing up. But then I met some of them, and they weren't. You know, I stepped outside of the Christian bubble, out into the real world that I was told was so filled with, you know, monsters. And not to say there aren't many monsters in the world, but it wasn't quite as described in my Christian upbringing, to say the least. And for the most part, beyond that bubble, there weren't monsters. They were just people, like me, and like the people inside the bubble. There was good people, there was bad people, there was smart people, there was dumb people, just like inside the bubble, you know? Can I give an opinion of somebody who is ex-LDS? Sure. That's right. That's right. We've all got those days. Today was definitely one of those days. My coworkers as well. You know, like half of us were in the end of the day meeting, and we were all just bruised, like just on the inside. It was one of those days. But you know, I'm just like, guys, shake it off. Tomorrow's a new day. We'll be alright.
It's a Monday.
It was a Monday. Even my lunch break, I had to replace the alternator of my truck on my lunch break, which was more physically strenuous than it had any right to be, because it's really not a hard task, but just my truck and my tools could be better. Not to blame the truck and the tools, but I'm blaming the truck and the tools.
At least we got it on quicker than we got it off.
And we did get it on quicker than we got it off. God could be real. He might not be. We can't really know for sure. But at the end of the day, there are rights, wrongs, and gray areas. Rules are the bone of society. Sure. So if God is real, he may not even agree with our rules, which is why you just have to follow your heart. I can agree up until, like, you know, you have to follow your heart. Because I do kind of fall into, like, the pedantic category of, like, my heart doesn't think anything, but, like, you know what people are saying when they say that. You still understand the feeling, even if you guys are attributing the feeling to different areas. You still understand the feeling. And following your heart can be good in some instances, but it can be bad. Sometimes you really do have to think things through. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I completely forgot what I was saying. That's all right. But yeah, there is some truth to being able to follow your heart. You know, with what feels right and feels wrong, doing what you truly believe is right, especially if you can, like, back it up. You know, there are some people who think that persecuting others is the right thing to do, and obviously it's not. I laughed. You're right. But it goes. There needs to be both. It needs to be following what you feel is right and actually thinking things through. Yeah, it's like, oh, I know this is important. How's it going to play out? Also, fun fact. Yeah, it's like, oh, I know this is important. How's it going to play out? Also, fun fact, Egyptians are the ones who started the statements, follow your heart. Interesting. To a point, everyone follows their conscience. To a point, yeah. Humans just, overall, I don't think by default are the most logical creatures. I don't think we lead with emotions a lot of the times. It's not always the worst thing, you know. Like I said, I think there kind of needs to be a balance there between the two. because you can't just lead with logic and you can't just lead with emotions. You got to find some kind of balance between the two. What that balance is, I don't know. How quite to find it, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Some just think they got it from a sky magician. Yeah. Some people think that, that follow your heart, that conscience guiding them is, the voice of God, or, God tugging on their heartstrings. And I mean, heck, maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know anything at the end of the day. Yeah, something interesting to think about, definitely. But then at the end of the day, what if there isn't a God? And we're all just kind of letting our heartstrings be tugged by what they are tugged by, thinking it's from God, and therefore thinking it's right. And then what kind of decisions are we going to make based off of that? Oh, the books look drunk. I need bookends. Eventually. A world without God is not possible. How do you know? Your bookshelf brings me sadness. It's, yeah, me too. A world without God is not possible. How do you know? How do you know we're not living in a world without God? How do you know that's not this world? And it's like right here, and it's like not. How do you know a smartphone is not possible without intelligent design? How do you know a smartphone is not possible without intelligent design? Because as far as we know, smartphones cannot come about without a human making them. And we can map that entire process. We can map humans existing, humans coming up with the ideas of phones, humans coming up with the ideas of better phones. We can map out the entire process of them being made from other resources. It's not the same thing. When it comes to like universes and like life and stuff, we don't necessarily have that whole thing mapped out. So you can't really do like the intelligent design thing on the bigger scale. It is not the same thing. Show me God. Prove that he exists. Actually show me, demonstrate, so we can actually study and observe him. And then let me observe him making a universe. Start to finish, the entire process. Because we can do that with phones. And as far as we can tell, things like paintings and buildings and phones do not come about by natural processes. Those are completely human-made things. Things like trees and humans and planets and stars and stuff, those are more natural processes, it would seem. And either way, we don't have a way to map out, we're working on it, but we don't have a way to map out start to finish how all that works. God is real, sure. I know a smartphone isn't possible without intelligent design because it has too many integrated parts. Why is complexity a hallmark of design? Engaging in category error? Sure. I don't need to prove God exists. Sure, but I don't know why anyone would believe you if you don't. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to prove shit. It's just like when you say stuff like a God exists and all that stuff without backing it up, don't expect people to believe you. We don't know things have a designer by looking. We don't know things have a designer by looking at them. We found an Antikythera mechanism. We don't know who designed it, but we can infer it was designed. Sure. You have to prove it if you insist I follow. If you insist I follow your rules, you must prove it. I didn't say complexity is a hallmark of design. Integrated parts kind of alluded to that, but forgive me, I guess you did not say specifically those words. Simplicity is the hallmark of good design. It can be. Yeah, simplicity is, I would say, the hallmark of good design. It's just start to finish. Don't have to do all kinds of bullshit that half does what it's supposed to do. Hello. I said it has too many integrated parts to come about naturally. Okay, I guess expand upon that. What are we discussing here? Right now, intelligent design. Jump right in. Design by definition is not simple. An example, a cart is more complex than just wood. Oh yeah, it's obvious, right? Yeah, not really. Let's look up the definition of design. Let's just see the Google AI overview definition of design. Fuck. Definition. I got a bunch of like design ad things. So the two things, noun and verb. Noun, a plan or drawing produced to show the look and function or workings of a building, garment, or other object before it is built or made, so like blueprints. And then verb, decide upon the look and functioning of an object by making a detailed drawing of it. Well, that's not what we're looking for either. Those aren't really, because like we kind of have a rough estimation of like what we're talking about when it comes to design. To create, fashion, execute, construct according to a plan, devise, contrive. I think that would be a better definition. Can be simple. Designs can be simple. A spear is a simple yet effective design. Simplicity is a hallmark of design. It's not. Simplicity is a hallmark of design. Is just atheistic trash. I mean, why does that have to be so complex? Like, did he not know what he was doing? Could he not just do like, this piece connects to this and like, fine, it has to be like a bunch of weird shit and half of it works the way it's supposed to, and you know, our backs aren't designed for creatures that stand up straight. Our appendix, however useful it is, can blow up at any second. Our eating and feeding tubes are in the same spot, so if we get food stuck, we die. You know, it could have been done better. It could have been done better, you know? I believe that a smartphone cannot come by natural occurrences. Yes, because everything we know points to that as being true, that smartphones cannot come about by natural occurrences. Every sane individual believes this too, because it has too many integrated parts. The universe has more integrated parts. That's not necessarily why I believe that. Therefore, it is irrational to assume it all came from via blind chance. Blind chance or just how the universe works. Sure, you can deny this, but it isn't rational to do so, if you say so. Design is characterized by innovation, functional utility, aesthetic appeal, and user-centric simplicity. Is a smartphone simple? Does complexity have to be the hallmark of a design? Hey Siri, what are the key aspects of DNA communication? That's a solid question. Smartphones are designed complex for many reasons. Exactly, the entire universe is hanging by a thread. It's a miracle everything works at all, and we're still here. Is it a miracle anything works, or does the universe just work the way that it works? And it couldn't have come about any other way. And if it worked different, it would have come out a different way, and maybe that way wouldn't have involved us. But if the universe would have been any different and still produced life, that life would probably be sitting here having this exact same conversation about, oh, if it was just a slightly off, nothing would have worked, you know, even though maybe it could have. We don't know. And we don't have other universes to compare with how different it could have been. We are talking about things that we have absolutely no grounding with. Smartphones aren't designed because they are complex. Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with that. Smartphones are just not anything that we would see naturally occurring. And we see, because again, we have the whole process of people came up with the ideas of phones, people bettered the ideas of phones, people building phones. We can go to a factory right now and probably see a bunch of children making phones, and we can see the entire process of it being done. And so we can say for certainty, that's how I know for certainty that iPhones don't occur naturally, because I've never seen one occur naturally, and it does not seem like it would. And we see that this is an idea that somebody came up with and now makes. I don't have that with a planet. I don't have that with a star. I don't have that with a universe. I don't have that with a person. I don't have that with a tree. That's why they're in two separate categories. You're implying we need to know it has a creator if it is designed. That is because we see objects move in space, and if they have unusual movements, we assume they are artificial designs. Stuff moves unusually in space on a pretty regular basis. Space just kind of does what it does. No, we don't need to know a creator. I'm not saying that for certain that we are not designed, but we have no reason to believe that we are. Whereas we have every reason to believe that phones are designed because we see the entire process start to finish. And we don't see them coming from any other source besides humans. So it would seem that those are designed products by humans. We don't have that whole process and all of that evidence when it comes to things like planets, humans, trees, stars, galaxies, universes. That's the thing. It's evidence, it's observation. This verifies that we don't need to know it has a creator. They are designed not because they are complex. Yeah, phones are designed, but it's not. It has nothing to do with how complex they are. A spear is also designed. I can sharpen a spear with just a rock and a stick and use it to go fishing. That is a designed thing that is stupidly simple. Complexity does not have to equal designed, and simplicity does not have to equal designed. That's the category error. We're trying to use complexity and simplicity to determine if something is designed or not, and that's just not how it works. What are the chances of any of the key factors being off by a minuscule amount that life would exist at all? I'll give you a hint. It might as well be 0. We don't know that. We don't have any other universes to compare to see how things could have been different. Also, I would ask if you know about the puddle analogy. That's an important one to bring up in this. This is why you are a joke. Sorry, you need evidence to conclude the universe is designed, but you haven't seen a universe come about without a creator too. So the universe came about. I don't know how. We don't know how. We have like the big expansion, but we don't even know like what did that. We don't know. We don't know. That's the thing. And then you come along and say it has to have been a creator, but you don't have any evidence. So I reject that claim. I don't claim that it's not a creator, but I do reject your claim based on lack of evidence that it was a creator. That's how this works. I know a hammer is designed. Is a hammer complex? Yeah, a hammer's not complex. Spear is not complex. Surely we can't conclude the universe isn't designed either using some reason you give or not. Just because you don't understand how something works doesn't mean it has to have been designed. That's not how it works. That's the God of the gaps fallacy. You see a full working system, not single individual parts. Because the universe just does what it does, and we don't fully understand that. And it could be a God, but we haven't gotten that evidence yet. We can't just say, oh, this is so complex it has to be a God. That's not how it works. The hallmark of design is neither simplicity nor complexity. Functionality is a prime hallmark. Could it be? I can design something that has absolutely 0 function. Integrated parts to achieve functionality is a smoking gun for design. Not necessarily. Cue the multiverse, infinite universes. We don't know. We have no way. You're talking about things that we don't know. What if things were different? I have no idea. I have no idea if things were slightly moved, if life wouldn't come about, or if life would come about, it would just be different, and it would be sitting here having this exact same conversation, talking about how it couldn't have possibly be any different way, even though it could have possibly been a different way. We just don't know. We don't have anything to compare it to. And just because we don't understand how something works doesn't mean it has to have been a God. That is the God of the gaps fallacy, and that is illogical, and that does not work. No, I'm saying based on the observable evidence we do have, it is far more likely that we have created with intelligent design than random chance. How so? Another smoking gun for design is that it is intangible. A smoking gun for design is that it is intangible. I think I'm completely intelligible. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses.
Yeah.
It is intelligible. Is it? I can make some bullshit nonsense designs that have absolutely zero function. You're not as smart as you think you are?
You never claimed to.
Then I'm very, very dumb, because I don't think I'm smart at all.
I was gonna say, you never claimed to.
So, yeah. I don't think I've ever claimed to be smart. I hope you can find the clip of me ever claiming that I am smart. So if I'm not as smart as I think I am, then I am exceedingly dumb. Like monumentally Guinness World Record dumb, because I don't really think I'm smart at all. All I'm saying is that you guys are making claims that we can't back up. You're just saying, oh, it's so complex. It's so intricate. How could it have not have been created? And I'm saying that's not how these things work. An undesigned universe that births creatures that find the universe intelligible is so improbable that it's absurd to consider such a thing. How did you discover that probability? How did you calculate that probability? It does take a dumb person to be an atheist. I've seen some very dumb and very smart atheists, and I've seen some very dumb and very smart atheists. Intelligence doesn't necessarily correlate with belief or lack of belief in a God. Shroud of Turin has been real, has been proven, it's real, I'm serious? Sure. Not really convinced by it, but sure. Bravo. Maverick is looking at the current state of things and assuming that it was planned results. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry you guys are getting heated, but all you're saying is like, look at how intricate this is. It has to have been a designer. And I'm just like, that's not quite how this works. Look into it. You can't just assume. I have. I'm just not really compelled by it. Probability is worked out by the chance it occurred over all possible outcomes. Okay, how did you work that out? It's been proven, actually. Look, okay. It takes a lot of faith to be an atheist nowadays. It takes zero faith. Faith is believing in something that you have absolutely no reason to believe in. Faith is what you plug in when you lack evidence. So lacking a belief in a God requires zero faith, whereas believing in a God requires all of the faith because we don't have good evidence for it. The evidence is more than you think it is. It's just research. I've done some research on the Shroud of Turin, and I'm not really impressed. It's also one of those, I will fully admit, the Shroud of Turin is one of those things that just kind of been over-discussed. I mean, you Google the Shroud of Turin, and you just find article after article after article of mostly bullshit claims on either side of the argument. Just refuting different things that they said. It just becomes a mess of information, and it's hard to find any facts for or against in the sea of mess. But I have not been convinced. Do you have faith in your girlfriend? I have a wife, but to find faith like that she's not going to cheat on me, that's so dishonest. You have just as much faith as a religious person. How so? What do I have faith in? Would you like to believe in God? I would like to believe that there's a God out there. I hope there's a God out there. Do you just want a good argument to convince you of the creator, or you just don't believe in a creator? Both. I have no reason to believe, and I'm open for a good argument. You said there is no God, and you have no evidence. I don't claim that there isn't a God. I just have no reason to believe that there is. New research is possible to recreate the fullness and sincerity. Okay. Fine-tuning in physics. Hundreds of constants enabled life to form. If one is out, then life wouldn't have formed. Are you sure? And have you heard of the puddle analogy? I was an atheist until Jesus found me in my doubt and disbelief and saved me anyway. Jesus is God. Then I'll wait for him to come and pick me up. I don't believe atheists are real. Sorry. Lack of evidence is not proof. Lack of evidence is not proof. No, but lack of evidence is lack of reason to believe, I think. Long live the Shroud. There's a strong link between atheism and autism. Yeah. I'm just going to delete that. How would I know what you put your faith in? Someone just called me out for having faith, so what do I have faith in? Desperation is a powerful mind manipulator. Is rape absolutely evil, or can it be evolutionary advantageous? I think that we've created a society that isn't just based on animal kingdom rules, and we've built it and figured it out together as a human race for about 200,000 years. And we've, for the most part, concluded that well-being, happiness, longevity of life is important, and that rape goes against that. Now, this isn't an objective moral system, but it's a system that's been agreed upon and worked out and figured out over the course of about 200,000 years of human history, and possibly even longer than that, with pre-human ancestors possibly figuring some things out. Faith, pretending to know things you don't know. Each continent has about 1 million other possible outcomes than the one we currently have. So this means it is very impossible. So I'm going to stop here and explain the puddle analogy. So say there's a pothole in the road, and I know I'm going to fall behind on chat. I'm already behind on chat, but I need to explain this. There's a pothole in a road, and it rains, and the pothole fills with water. Say that water somehow suddenly gains sentience. And that puddle of water might sit there thinking, wow, look, I fit perfectly into this pothole. It must have been designed perfectly for me. Therefore, there's an intelligent designer taking care of things, and everything's going to be okay. And even when the sun starts to come out and dry up that puddle, and it shrinks more and more, it still holds on to this belief that everything's going to be fine because it's in a hole that has been perfectly designed from its perspective to fit it. Therefore, there has to be a perfect designer, until, much to its surprise, it eventually disappears. Were things designed perfectly for humans, or did humans evolve to fit in what was? Was the pothole designed to hold that puddle in the perfect shape, or did the water just take the shape of the pothole? This is the important question. If gravity was slightly greater, planets wouldn't form as they collapse, and if slightly weaker, they couldn't rotate together, or they could have just worked in a different way. Because I know you don't operate life testing and seeing it for yourself with every aspect of life. I operate on reason to believe, and there are some aspects that I just don't care about. Like this chicken that I'm eating might taste good, just take a chance. Like there's stuff that doesn't matter. Whether or not there is a God, and whether or not that God has rules that we all must live by, and this God is going to torture us for all of eternity if we don't follow these rules, or if this God isn't real, then setting up a society based on these rules is just messed up and wrong and bad for humanity. Like, these things matter. That's why things actually matter. Like, if somebody comes up to me and says, I got a dog yesterday. Humans exist, dogs exist, people get dogs. Sure, and if I'm wrong, you fuck that guy, for lying, but like, whatever. But when we're trying to push religion on people, and we're trying to structure societies based on religions, whether or not those religions are actually good for society or people, then it becomes important. Then I'm going to need to see some backing. I'm going to need to see some evidence before I'm going to shape my entire life and advocate for the shaping of other people's lives and societies based on this claim. Nobody is shaping their lives around your friend who bought a dog yesterday. So it just depends on the claim. Because there are some things that just don't matter as much, and I fell very behind on chat. I'm going to skip ahead. If I skipped your thing, just feel free to repost it. I don't want to fall behind on chat too much. You're assuming this is the planned result. Yeah. Total impossible outcome for all physics contradicts it. If you say so, handsome, you're a babe, wear your glasses. They're on the thing. I had a long day. I don't feel like wearing glasses. Is life common or rare? We have barely been able to... We've barely been able to explore the solar system. And I say that, I hesitate on that because we really haven't even done it. We've sent some robots with cameras on them to take pictures as they fly past. We've sent actual probes and rovers to travel around things like the moon and Mars, and obviously we've traveled around Earth. We still haven't discovered everything there is to discover on our own planet. We dropped a couple probes on Venus. They melted. It's a thing. But, we got some pictures in it. But I have no idea. I have no idea how common life is. I don't know if the solar system is void of life, because the stuff that is necessary for life like us, is everywhere in the universe. And the universe is either infinite or inconceivably big, and it keeps doing all of the things roughly that got us here. So I don't know. Could we be the only life? Maybe. Could we not be? Maybe. It's like you're trying to look for something, and you take 2 steps and be like, well, I just can't find it. We've taken 2 steps in an infinite universe. So I have no idea. And this is the problem that I have with this conversation. You guys keep making claims about stuff that we just have no idea. And there is nothing wrong with saying that. Is there a God? I don't know. But I have no reason to believe that there is. That's all it is at the end of the day. And just because we don't understand how the universe works doesn't mean it has to have been something else. That is a God of the gaps fallacy, and that has failed us many times throughout human history, because we used to attribute things like natural disasters, insect swarms, diseases, eclipses, changing of seasons, the sun rising and setting. We used to attribute all of these things to direct divine intervention, but now we have discovered that they are just kind of natural, and we don't need magical divine explanations to explain them. So this whole, I don't understand how it works, therefore it must be something crazy and unnatural, just does not work and has failed us. So we can't keep using that. Apologetics can get you halfway there. Can it? Can't find him with your head, brother. Sure. Actually, he knows of God. Actually, he knows of God. God made himself evident to him already. He's just willfully dissonant. Because that's the classic atheist straw man, right? Are you familiar with what a straw man is? Another fallacy. Fallacy after fallacy. Yes, atheists know God is real. We just reject him. Fun fact, I both don't believe in a God, and if any of the gods of the proposed religions existed, I would reject them. They're 2 separate categories, actually. So I like the Christian God, for example. Hello. I don't have any reason to believe that Christian God exists, good or bad, and that has nothing to do with how much I like the Christian God. 0. Nothing. But if the Christian God does exist, I don't like him. And even if the Christian God doesn't exist, I don't like the character. Those are 2 completely separate categories. Just because you do not like something does not mean it cannot exist. I have friends that I grew up with who are dead now. I don't like that. That doesn't bring the friends back, Like, I don't like childhood cancer, but children are still dying of cancer. It doesn't matter if you like something or not. That doesn't have any bearing on whether or not it exists. They're not worth the effort. See you, bud. Good luck. You're going to need it. Sure. How do you distinguish between hope and faith? That's a good question. I like that. How do you distinguish between hope and faith? Hope is... It's one of those words that, like, you don't really... Nobody ever really asks the definition of. Hope is wishing for something in the future, where faith is just what you plug in when you don't have any actual reason to believe in anything, when you don't have any actual reason to believe in something. Like, all the religions that believe in various gods rely on faith. They all use the same mechanisms to get to different answers, so it's just not a reliable path to the truth. I could have faith that this TV remote's going to turn into a unicorn one day and carry me off to Valhalla. It's just not a reliable path to the truth. But I would say that's the biggest distinction. Faith is, or hope is, wanting better for the future. And faith is just what you plug in when you don't have evidence. It's the reason you give when you don't have reason. Yahweh says he won't even listen to the prayers of the abusive husband. He who mistreats his wife will have his prayers hindered. I mean, that's good, solid. Even though the Bible's kind of misogynistic, and women in the Bible are like a step above property, but sure. Hope is epistemologically humble, maybe. You a moral relativist? I think that we've developed a system of morals and ethics over the course of our 200,000 year history, and possibly longer than that with our pre-human ancestors. A system of morals and ethics that seems mostly focused on human well-being and longevity of life. And I think we've tweaked and worked on that over the course of the last 200,000 plus years. And I like that that base for morals, and a lot of other people do. It's not necessarily relative, it's just what has been agreed upon. And then with that subjective foundation of moral well-being, because I don't believe in objective morality, but the closest thing we can get is with a subjective foundation, there are objective morals based on that. Like, say you're basing morals off of longevity of life. That is a subjective moral base. But murder would be objectively wrong according to that subjective base. That's about as close as we get to objective morals, in my opinion, if that answered your question at all. Demonstrate there is a why. Demonstrate there is a why. I like you, buddy. I am a Christian and don't like to judge. Ask Jesus to reveal himself to you. I went to law school, wrote the LSAT, and even to the top tier school, but meeting him changed everything. Blessings. Solid, I'm proud of your achievements. Intelligence doesn't really have anything to do with belief in a God, but solid. Morality is subjective, but you get objective morality from subjectivity. So, I don't know if you listened. I don't know if you didn't listen or if I didn't explain it correctly. So we can have a subjective moral base. So we can decide that, our base is human longevity, say, which is, for example, longevity of life. We agree as a human species, because that's one of them. We agree as a human species that that's important, that needs to be protected. Murder objectively goes against that base. Because if you murder someone, you are cutting their life short, and that objectively is contrary to longevity of life. That is as close as we get to objective morals. God's natural dwelling place is defending the widow and the fatherless. Is not just what he does, it's who he is. I like cherry-picking verses too, but, if you read the entire context of the Bible, God of the Bible is kind of a monster throughout. He literally has a devil vest on. I literally have a devil vest on. Yep. Because Halloween's satanic, y'all. Hop on that train, too. How many other tropes are we going to throw in tonight? He literally has a devil vest on. He wants to make excuses to reject God. Even if God revealed himself to him, he would disregard it as a hallucination. I might, actually. I wouldn't know if I was hallucinating or not, or if it was like a drone hologram or something. So, that is true. I wouldn't know. But I always like to say, especially if we're dealing with a tri-omni God, like the God of the Bible, an all-knowing God would know what it would take to convince me. An all-powerful God would be able to do what it takes to convince me. And an all-loving God who wants a relationship with me would want to do what it takes to convince me, especially when I really, really, really want to know if there is or is not a God. If there is a God, I really, 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 really want that God to reveal himself to me, and I'm really hoping there is a God, or at least something else out there. Maybe not any of the specific proposed gods of the religions thus far, but I personally would like there to be something out there. I just don't have reason to believe that there is, and that's not saying that there isn't, and I'm not claiming that there isn't. I just have no reason to believe that there is. I don't I don't believe there is no God. I just lack belief in a God. That's atheism. That's why I did. That's what I did, Nicholas. Jesus revealed himself to me. I asked for signs. He gave them to me. Healing mental health, and removing addictions. It's always a choice. If you don't want, he will not. I healed my mental health and got away from addictions leaving Christianity, personally. I mean, that's just me. Since your morality has a subjective base, how do you know what you are doing is right or wrong? See, I don't know if you're not listening or if I'm just not explaining it right, but like over 200,000 years of humans figuring out how to deal with one another and work together for the betterment of a society and the individuals within a society, including themselves, plays a good role in the evolutionary product of that. How it plays in our mental and societal evolution, and how it plays into our conscience and our whatnot. That's where we get, morals and ethics. I personally got my morals and ethics from being treated like shit growing up, and seeing the dark places that put me growing up. The depression, anxiety, trauma, and wanting to take my own life, and not wanting other people to be in that dark place, and especially not wanting to put anyone in that dark place. So I adjusted my stuff accordingly and tried to be the type of person that I needed growing up but didn't always have. Tried to be loving, caring, kind, understanding, all that good stuff. So even back when I was a devout Christian, which I was a devout Christian the first 20 plus years of my life, I still didn't base my morals on God or anything in the Bible. I based them on, hey, I know what it feels like to be shit on. Let's not shit on people, because it's not a good feeling that I want to share with the world. That's where I get my morals personally. Do you think that lighting your daughter on fire if you catch her being a prostitute is perfect, holy, and good like Yahweh claims? Doesn't sound great, no? Oh, I have been looking for Jesus all my life. I will tell you, I have never seen him, but I will tell you one thing. I will be a witness of the things that I have been gifted from God. And what about all the people from other religions that claim to have relationships and experiences with Allah and Vishnu, who say the same things as you guys do, but change a different name and change some of the backstory? What about them? Seems like you're not getting the point. Since it's all coming from a subjective base, how do you know how do you know that for 2,000 years they've actually been figuring it out? 200,000 years. And it could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's morally best for people to die, or maybe there isn't any objective morality or anything, and this is just kind of what we've figured out, and it kind of seems to be working-ish. When people actually stick to the base, it seems to kind of work to, make people happy and keep them living longer. Because at the end of the day, whether there is a God or there is not a God, we're all just things that exist. And we don't really know what to do with that information. We don't really know why or how or, what to do with that. And so science and religion and, ethical systems and society and so many things have been built, cultures have been built on figuring out that. We're here. What does that mean, and what do we do with that information? That's what we have done as a society. So this system of ethics is just kind of what we've come up with. And if properly implemented, people are happy and living longer. It seems good to me, and it seems good to most people. That's really it, it doesn't need to be some kind of objective, absolute right and wrong. We're just kind of figuring things out as we go. If there's a God, not saying there is, but if there's a God, why would he had to reveal himself, and why would a real God had to rise to the human moral standards? I mean, if he doesn't want to show up, then that's fine, and if he wants to have his standards. The God of the Bible does promote misogyny, slavery, genocide, and child abuse. Like, if you want to sit here and defend those things, I guess you can. But yeah, and maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe genocide and child abuse and slavery and misogyny are objectively good things. According to the Bible, they are. And yeah, I just lost a few viewers because some people don't like to hear that shit. But you know, I mean, if you want to make that argument, then you know, it's maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you should beat your slaves, you know, with a rod. Maybe you can beat them so long as they don't die within a couple of days. But if they die after a couple of days, it's fine because they're your property anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. You know, maybe I'm the asshole. You know, sure. Maybe. Who really knows? Again, we're all just kind of trying to figure stuff out at the end of the day. But, you know, if God has it figured out and that's what he wants, then, I mean, that's sure. Jesus was a liar and a fraud that worshipped a God that commanded his priests to light their daughters on fire if caught being prostitutes. What part of this do you not understand? Yeah, there's definitely some stuff. That's one way to take it. If it's what? I ranted a lot. It should be proven false if it's false. Oh, yeah, no, okay, no, you were just correcting yourself, I'm sorry. It should be proven false if it's false? I mean, if we're really, really good at proving things true and false, sure, but, like, we're not. Humans really aren't that smart or complex. There's still a lot that we haven't figured out. I mean, we haven't even finished exploring our own planet. And it's been like 200,000 years. You know, what are we doing? You know, we're not that advanced. None of us know much. Even the smartest among us, compared to like all there is to know in the universe, doesn't know a fucking thing. And that kind of sucks, you know? It kind of sucks that we're all just kind of trying to figure it out. It kind of sucks that we don't have all the answers. It kind of sucks that, you know, there might not be a why or a reason or a grand purpose. It kind of sucks that there might not be some objective moral lawgiver there guiding the universe, taking care of us or whatever. But, like, life objectively does suck sometimes, you know? Kids die of cancer. That sucks. So, like, it can suck. So, you know, just because it sucks doesn't mean it can't be. This deity thinks that there's such a thing as a virginity test, and then you should execute young ladies if they don't pass it. This is exactly why we should exempt from an invention of goat herders, maybe. Who's to say? Who's to say at the end of the day? I am going to end the live stream soon. Just a warning. Just a heads up. I got a few subscribers. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Anybody who brings up the Shroud of Turin is no different than a conspiracy theorist because it's debunked a long time ago. Yeah, the Shroud of Turin's a mess. That's the whole thing. And at the end of the day, who really knows? Who really knows? Who's right? Who's wrong? What is right and wrong? Is there right and wrong? Hey, Mixed, the stream's almost over. But it's good to see you. Christians know, according to Christians. Muslims know, according to Muslims. Jews know, according to Jews. Hindus know, according to Hindus. Buddhists know, according to Buddhists. Also, RM showed up. Hi. Still good to see you guys, even if it's like at the end of the stream. It's always good to see you guys. According to God. Yeah, you know, according to the God of Christianity. Or like, you know, according to the God of Islam. Or like according to the God of God's head God of Hinduism. Why do... I don't know why people call us gay. I'm going to hide that because it might be slightly offensive. Like, a lot of people call us gay. A lot of religious people. I'm not gay, you know. I fall into the spectrum of gay. The God of the Bible is difficult to understand, but there's nothing wrong with questioning. I can respect that. The definition of a society is what? People working together to do stuff. Like, you could be out in the middle of the woods, you know, hunting and gathering and building and cooking and making clothes and all of that stuff. Or you can get, like, a group of people. And, like, now Mary does, you know, the building, and Jack does the sewing, and Alfred does the cooking, and Margaret does the hunting, and Francis does the fishing, and we all work together, and then we can exchange what we have for goods and services, or we can just come up with like a system of metal or cotton paper and call that our currency. That, you know, that works too. Whatever floats your boat. But that's kind of what society is. It's when there's more than one people working together and just working together. Dividing tasks, trading, what's what I'm looking for? Communicating. Why hasn't the shroud been successfully recreated while keeping and showing all its characters and fullness? Why? They have tried. So, like, if you study art throughout history, there's some artists that are, like, insanely good. Like, good in ways that you cannot comprehend. Good in ways that cannot be recreated. Good in ways that makes statues, stone, marble, feel like, you know, stretchy flesh. Like, there have been impressive artists out there. So the idea that there is some amazing, impressive artist who designs things like the Shroud of Turin or, you know, Juan Diego's cloak that nobody can replicate isn't really impossible. If morality is subjective to you, then who are you to persecute someone else? I don't really persecute. I call out people who are persecuting others and people who support systems that are persecuting others, but, like, I don't really persecute people. You don't think reality is subjective too, right? Reality is not subjective. Reality is what it is. The universe works the way that it does. The laws of the universe work the way that they do. We may not fully understand it. You know, I'm not going to pretend that, like, science has all the objective facts, but, like, the universe does objectively work in such a way. Reality does work objectively in such a way. We just don't quite have a full understanding of it. In general, how could someone be persecuted? Being harmed physically, mentally, and emotionally for their beliefs, choices, lifestyles, etc. And especially if it's just based on their lifestyles and choices, even when those lifestyles and choices do not cause persecution to others. I think that would be a decent definition. I am about to end the live stream, so just a warning. Just a heads up. Keeping it about an hour. I need to get food and go to sleep. November doesn't like that I am gay. She is allowed her opinion, and I also feel disappointed. Sure. Hi. 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 There's nothing wrong with being gay, but perhaps that's the discussion for another day. I do think I'm going to go ahead and end the stream there. If you guys are having discussions among yourselves, feel free to continue those in the comment sections. I don't want to like interrupt your conversations. Also, you know, it helps the algorithm and whatnot. But yeah, I also just don't want to like cut you guys off in the middle of conversations. Thank you all so much for being here. I say it every time because I mean it every time. I'm always appreciative. Don't move the stool. I'm always appreciative of anyone who doesn't just scroll past. You know, I'm a random nobody on the internet. As was established earlier and probably throughout this live stream, I'm not the smartest person in the world. You know, there's no real reason for people to stop and chat, but they do. And people stop, and sometimes they just stop and like lurk and just like watch, and I think that's cool. Sometimes they engage, they chat, they have full-on conversations, amazing conversations, bring up amazing points. They really get me and the other people in the stream thinking, and they like and subscribe and you know whatever else, and they come back. I think it's amazing that I have people that like come back to watch multiple streams, both Christians and atheists, theists and atheists. So it's greatly appreciated. So thank you all so much for being here. Truly, I usually go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night. It used to be around like starting somewhere between 9 and 9:30 Central Standard Time and going for about an hour or so. Going forward, it's going to be closer to 9:30, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time to start, and then going for about an hour. Just with a new schedule and stuff that I'm working out the kinks of. But I hope to see you all there, and I appreciate you being here, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching this.